So majority pepperoni, right?
Okay, I'm gonna get some more.
We're gonna just keep it going right now.
You just set it on the table.
Everything is close to this right now, so out of focus. But if there's somebody that walks to the classroom and does anything, try and see if you can figure out how those panels.
No, oh, okay. Mushroom. Let me just have what happened? I'm waiting on, hold on, I'm gonna bring it around.
Thank you. Are you supposed to see that? Oh, Sophia. Okay, Sophia. Oh, look at her blushing. Come on, man. That is some teamwork in my friend.
Yeah, we may have more though.
Wait, no, because you have much different guys.
See if we can get more. Maybe we would get everybody going.
But we're taking them that.
I saw Jazz, but I didn't see Ginger.
Okay, at this point, I know you and your twin, because I can't tell who's who.
I had garlic, olive, and
It's onions, mushrooms, you never go one time.
no, it is. Oh, I already think about it.
Oh, he came my food around.
Oh, yeah, I'm going to fuck about that. He over. Let me see. Let's see. Let's see. You did something? Boy. He can't eat it. He don't make it yet, but it's okay. Why would you do that? Because you needed a hit. I mean,
Probably have more for another helping. We'll make sure everybody comes out. Veggie over here.
you should have rewarded him with a hug. Look at him. I have this time.
Alright, we should be going.
Another hate time's going on. That's jello.
They don't have a plate.
It's ghetto for y'all. It's ghetto for y'all.
Okay, let me go get these girls out the back.
His name is.
I need some more plates.
Okay, everybody get themselves ready for a show, okay? So my name is Mr. Kevin. A lot of you guys have seen me here day one. I've been doing a lot of videotaping here. I'm going to introduce Mariah. She's going to actually introduce our speakers for today. Okay? Does anybody have any questions before we start? Because I want you guys to be active, not just be sitting here eating pizza. Anybody have any questions before we start?
What's today's topic?
Well, the topic's really going to be speakers who are going to share with you their journeys and why they got in this classroom, because they're literally here invited by me. But the topic is going to be them sharing with you how they got here as individuals. Anybody else have any other questions? Okay, so I'm going to introduce you. The person is going to bring on the show. This young lady here, I'm very proud of her. She just graduated from the University of San Diego Sunday. So give her a round of applause. I'm going to have her introduce herself, but she is my mentee, but she's also my employee through an apprenticeship program. And her journey here has been very, very, very winding road. It's not been a straight road for her to get here. So without further ado, I want to introduce Mariah behind me. Give her a round of applause. Yeah!
University where I obtained my bachelor's degree in criminal justice and criminology. I decided to make that transition and pursue a career in the cybersecurity industry. So where I just obtained my master's in cybersecurity operations and leadership at the University of San Diego. So I grew up in a household where there's always been a lack of support from my mom or my parents in general, and I'm still battling that today. Hopefully I don't cry. It's a sensitive topic, very touchy, and I just get a little bit vulnerable when I talk about the situation. But the lack of support has been a really big impact on my life, and how I had to figure out life on my own. My dad is absent, and I really just been here for myself. I've really been like self-driven and dedicated to make a commitment to achieve all the goals and all the aspirations that I have for myself. I'm sorry. I'm gonna give you a hug. So I just think that anything that I accomplished my parenting is not good enough. I was even crying this morning, just thinking about everything and how I was able to persevere and just stay dedicated in achieving, this long-term goal and what I really wanted to accomplish. With my master's, it doesn't seem like my mom was, excited or just happy enough for me that I was able to complete this and just embark on this journey of my own called life. It's just not a happy feeling, but I'm proud of myself. I'm proud of you too, though. Thank you. Kevin has been an amazing support system. I've known him for only a few months, and not only does he see the vision that I have for myself, but he also sees the potential on how far I can push myself. And so that's all I've been wanting from my parents, to see how much I want this for myself. But I've learned to accept them for who they are. And this is my life, so I have to be able to continue living on it and just pursuing the person collects, analyzes any type of digital forensics information, whether that's on an IoT, Internet of Things device, any type of information I collect to capture any sort of thing. So that is my aspiration. And
this is a very special moment for me, and I'm glad that the cameras are rolling because I have 4 other people that work for me that have been part of this journey for the last year. Some of the people that I want to introduce you to today have been part of this journey. The first person I want to have introduce themselves, come up and speak about our journey is Candace Tucker. And Candace is an amazing, Candace, I kind of mix her up with Jay Tucker, who introduced me to her. But Candace is a person who has been part of our journey. She's spoken at some of the events that we've actually captured for our apprentices. Candace is going to speak to you guys about her journey, and I hope that you guys have some questions for her, and I just heard her talk about her journey. So without further ado, Candace.
I'm going to pull this stool around and sit down and chat with you guys for a bit. Hi, everyone. So I'm Candace Newman. I am from Los Angeles, California, born and raised. I'm a mom and an older sister of a bunch of siblings. My parents were 15 when I was born. Both of them were 15. So growing up here in Los Angeles, I grew up with teenage parents initially, and when they couldn't take on the responsibility, I ended up in foster care. So I navigated living in foster care for a good chunk of my childhood into my formative years, where I was becoming a young adult, young person, kind of similar to the years that you guys are forming into young adults as well, and I had a lot to figure out during that time. So during that time, I was navigating foster care lifestyle and in school and trying to think about what am I going to do with my life and my future. And the one thing that I realized is that no matter what, I wanted to get out of the situation that I was in. So it was most important that I pursued a life that was different than the one that I was living. And I just remember thinking when I was a kid, oh, when I get older, all of these adults are making bad decisions on my behalf. I can't wait to make decisions on my own behalf and for my own life so that my life can be different. And so that's what I committed to myself, and that's what I was determined to do. I didn't want to be a statistic and default back into whatever society said a foster kid or someone who comes from a marginalized or a bad background would become or would turn out to be. So I aspired for more, and what that led me to is my career now in the live concert and touring production industry. Sorry. Are you guys familiar with the touring and concert business? Yeah, have you ever been to a concert? Anybody ever been to a concert? You like going to concerts? Interested in concerts? Yeah, so I work to produce them. So what that means is I help work with artists, agents, managers, talent producers to ideate and come up with what they want their concert or tour vision to look like, and then I come up with a plan for that. I devise the markets and the timeline and help with the marketing and help with the tickets and put the tickets on sale on Ticketmaster, and then help the show go up, right? So there's a lot of moving parts and pieces involved in that, and I don't do it all by myself, but I lead the charge in it. And so how that became a career for me is I always had a passion for music. I knew that I wanted to work in the music industry. Music was the coping mechanism that I used to get through life, right? Like I used music as my parents almost, right? Like it was something to kind of help me figure out how I was going to move forward in my life. So music was always something that I knew that I was passionate about and I wanted to pursue as a career. I didn't know what and how. I did go to college. I graduated from Cal State Fullerton with my undergrad degree. During that time, I remember being emancipated. My social worker coming to my dorm, and my roommate was like, "Who's this lady, and what is she doing here in our dorm?" Right? And she was emancipating me and transitioning me from the foster care system into adulthood, which was a big responsibility because then at that point I no longer belonged to anything and anyone. I just belonged to myself and I belonged to God, essentially. So I just had to figure out, like, what's next for me? So I aspired to graduate from college. I aspired to pursue whatever dreams and careers that I wanted to pursue. During the time that I was in college, the universe just kind of defaulted me into this opportunity to work on campus as an event manager. So while I was on campus, someone tracked me down first day walking through my campus and was like, do you want a job? And I'm like, yeah, why not? And so she gave me a job as an event manager in the student union. And the student union is the union where everyone goes to for banquets and for Rush Week, for Greek Week in college, and for study hall, and there was a bowling alley and all kinds of other stuff in this student union, right? And so it was a lot of activities and a big event space that I was an event manager for very early on, and I had keys to the venue, and I wasn't the only one, but during that time I learned about audio-visual and how to put together the technology for a show or for an event. So how to put together the sound system and how to adjust the lighting perfectly for the event. That's not something that I pursued. She tracked me down and said, did I want a job? And I took the job, but I found a passion in the event space. I honed in on it, I leaned into it, I figured, like, this is cool to see what happens after you plug those lights in and that sound in and the event goes up and people are in the space and enjoying themselves was rewarding for me. So I knew that I was like, okay, this is something that I just really like to do. So I pursued a career in events. So after college, I worked for wedding planners. I did a lot of bar mitzvahs and bar mitzvahs. I've been to a lot of bar mitzvahs, like a lot of bar mitzvahs and bar mitzvahs, because I helped plan them and produce them. I've been to a lot of birthday parties, a lot of weddings, different cultural types of weddings. So what that called for me to do is to develop different types of skills, right? It had me to develop organizational skills, skills on how to really be responsible and move things along in a proper timeline, and how to communicate properly, because a wedding has to go off without a hitch, and if I'm a part of being of that process, then that means that I have to do my part. So what all of these things brought forward for me is that, one, I was trying to identify ways to get out of my situation, but then I found things that I'm good at and things that I enjoy and things that have turned into a passion for me. So eventually, once I graduated from college, I took my events, talents, and skills and my passion for music, and I pursued a career in the music industry, within the live music industry specifically, because that's where I can produce live events, right, and still do music. So I worked at Live Nation for 12 years, helping produce events, and I started as an assistant there. So I started kind of on the ground level, and during my assistant time there, that's when I used all those skills and all of the talents that I learned from working at the student union in college, working with event planners and wedding planners, and I took all that to Live Nation as an assistant. And I didn't know how to produce tours at the time, but I was in the right place, and I had enough of the skill set that I had learned from all of those other places to take with me, kind of like equipment and tools that I carried with me into my next phase of my life. And so having to work at Live Nation for 12 years is kind of a big deal. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Live Nation, but they produce the biggest and the best concerts. So during the time that I was there, as an assistant, I put together a succession plan for myself. Do you guys know what a succession plan is? Succession plan is when you carve out a plan for your success. What would you like to see yourself in that specific space? So my trajectory started off, I was an assistant, but I knew that I wanted to be a decision maker, like a vice president. So my succession plan started as, okay, I'm gonna be this assistant, I'm gonna be a great assistant, and then it's gonna get me to become a coordinator or project manager. And then I graduated from coordinator and project manager eventually into a director. And then I graduated, and that was part of my succession plan, because I knew I had a goal, an end goal, and a destination that I wanted to get to. So come up with that succession plan no matter what space you're in. If you're in class right now and you have a succession plan, what's my end result, what's the end goal? Carve out what that looks like for you. It may not be specifically how you carve that out, but eventually it will get to where you need to be. So I created a succession plan at Live Nation, and I was successfully able to navigate 12 years of career there. After a while, I was the only black woman producing tours and concerts at Live Nation, which didn't make sense to me. I look around, I'm like, dang, it's been 12 years and I'm the only black person here. Not only woman, but person. So I just decided, during the time I was at the company, I started to create internal initiatives to try to create and amplify DEI and increase diversity, they had a lot of women, but white women, to be candid, but increase more black people and more black women. Obviously inspired by me and my journey and my career. So what I decided to do is I left Live Nation. I graduated from Live Nation in 2020, and I started my own company called Live Out Live. And Live Out Live is basically like inspired by my journey, right? I'm able to live out live in the live music industry beyond the corporate world. I'm able to be an entrepreneur in this space and make decisions on my own and take on relationships and projects that I'm interested in. I was able to book Omarion's HBCU book tour last year. It wasn't a music tour, but he wrote a book, and so I helped him ideate, let's do a HBCU tour. So we went to 20 HBCUs, and he did a sound bath meditation, he gave away books, he did a Q&A. I've done a ton of other independent tours, but while I was at Live Nation, I did big stuff like Rihanna, Drake, Bad Boys Tour, ton of stuff. But independently, I've been able to do a lot of really incredible things too. Right now, I work with the company, and we just did Tink's tour. I'm launching Young Blues tour, so I'm launching Cash Dolls, a bunch of other stuff that I can't really go too far into. But the point is, I'm able to do that as an entrepreneur now on my own terms and in my own time. And it's because of all of the parts of my journey that I took with me to further my career. And so how I see all that is all part of my purpose and in aligning with what I'm supposed to be doing here in this world. And part of that is sharing my journey with you guys. And so that is a part of my purpose. And so what I want to leave with you guys is that you start thinking about, and not figuring it out today, but thinking about what you're passionate about and how does that align with your future purpose. Because I didn't really figure out what my purpose was until I became a young adult, and I have landed into this space, but I know it now and I'm leaning into it. So I want you guys to also be inspired by that. So I'm gonna stop for now. I went on a lot, but.
Before we bring on the next person, does anybody have any questions for Candace?
One question. Can I get
Come on,
one
come on.
question? One
How about
question?
you, lady?
Oh, how was it like to find out who you were when you were a young adult, but not as a younger person?
I'm sorry. What was the question?
How did you figure out like what you wanted to do? No, how did it feel when you found out what you wanted to do when you were a young adult instead of being a younger person?
I'm still figuring that out sometimes, right? Like I told you, now I'm an entrepreneur. I didn't know that I wanted to be an entrepreneur, but I'm loving being an entrepreneur. So it's an ever-evolving process and journey, and that's the beautiful thing about life. Like people change careers and switch this, that, and the other. I wanted to be a social worker because I was like, well, I'm in foster care. I can be a social worker and I can command the situation and make sure that no one experiences but I can't save the world, right? So I'm like, well, what do I love to do? And so that's how I figured it out. I figured, what do I love to do, and how can I carve out a path to get to the things that I love to do? Because if you love to do it, it doesn't become work, right? It becomes just something you wake up to do and you aspire to do every day, and I get paid to do that. So that's the fun thing about it, but I didn't always know. Let's hear from you.
Who's your dream person to work for?
Oh, that's a good question. I guess I'm just gonna say Beyonce because she's the artist of our current time right now, right? I've worked with a lot of like legendary people, but if I can't say Michael Jackson, I'm gonna just say Beyonce.
Hey guys,
Let's hear from you. One last one.
one last one.
How was like kind of the process of like what you're doing with like concerts and stuff, and yeah.
So it's a long process, right? But ultimately, it involves just working closely and collaborating with artists and talent and agents and managers and really helping them see their vision. I know all of the logistical stuff that I have to do in this business, and that is, in any business, you learn all of the aspects of it. Like a tour routing, for example. To route a tour, that's the timeline and every single stop that an artist goes on, and that involves understanding geography. Like what market they're gonna go to next, right? They're not gonna go from LA to New York, but they can go from LA to San Diego, to Phoenix, Texas, and those type of moves make sense. So it's understanding geography and understanding every aspect of the process. But it just takes learning, learning the space and really researching it, because I'm always studying and understanding a little bit more about my industry, because everything is ever changing. So, you're always gonna have to study your craft.
Great, thank you guys. And this is a lightning round because we only had a little short amount of time. I'm so sorry. I want to introduce the next person. There is right now a strike that's shutting down Hollywood, but this is the person that we wanted to hear from because she's working in an industry in Hollywood where it's 87% women in this particular guild that she represents. So without further ado, I want to introduce you, Tracy. Tracy.
I'll make it fast. No, it's okay. I'm used to talking fast. Hello, my name is Tracy Gigi Field, and I'm a costume designer, so I dress actors for a living, right? I went to Westchester High, went to Grayson High. Right? Yeah, and we all know I'm light, right? So that was not fun. So, just growing up in an environment where I didn't really have any role models. I rode the bus to school every day. And one of the things I remember when I rode the bus is like, when I'm, a certain age, I don't want to ride the bus, right? I want to have a car, I want to have my life together, and so I think you find inspiration, like, no matter where you are, right? I also lived in a motel when I was in the 5th grade. I mean, we all have our past, right? So I didn't think that I would be able to do anything except, like, be a flight attendant or something like that. I wanted to see the world. And I ended up going to El Camino College, and I studied law, thinking, because my mother wanted me to be a lawyer, because, that's all I think that she could think of that would make money. And I did that. I studied, law, pre-law, and I was like, this is not what I want to do. I don't want to wear suits to work every day. So then I ended up going to fashion school, and was a bit of, and I had to pay for everything myself, just so we're clear. I had a full-time job, a part-time job, and I went to school full-time. But I knew that I wanted to make money, and I did not want to live how I lived growing up, right? My mom dropped me off everywhere. Any relative that would take me, basically. That's where I lived. Anyway, so I was working at the mall, right? And everybody that came in to shop for shows, I would just be like, hey, how'd you get started? How do you do this? And everyone was like, you gotta work for free. Obviously, I couldn't work for free. I had to pay half my mom's rent. I had to pay my own car payment. I take care of my life. So finally, I met this woman, and she was like, well, come interview to be a PA. You make $100 a day. Mind you, this is I'm gonna date myself. This is 1998. So, at that time, that's a lot of money. So, for me. So, I interviewed, I got the job, and basically I worked there, and every time they sent me out on runs, I would just ask other people, how'd you get into, you need to get in the union, right, in order to really be able to work on shows and film to dress actors in the costume department. So finally, I was able to get into a place where I could get my days. And then, I'm trying to fast forward, I get there and I'm literally everybody's white. Everybody's white. And I grew up with my black family, and so for me, I was like, there is nobody like me here. Nobody sounds like me, nobody looks like me. And I was like, okay, I don't know how I'm gonna do this, but I'm gonna do this. And then I ended up working very early on with a job with Michelle Cole. She does Blackish, and she ended up becoming a mentor for me. And I was like, wow, light-skinned black woman who's even back then, she was killing it. And then right after that, I ended up day playing on the show with Ruth Carter. I know we all know who Ruth Carter is, right? Yeah.
Does anybody not know who Ruth Carter is?
If you don't know who Ruth Carter is, you should look her up. I mean, she did the Wakanda movies. She did
She
all
won
the
2
Spike
Academy
Lees.
Awards for Black Panther.
Yeah, she is incredible. She's literally paving the way for all people of color. She's just trailblazing. So I feel like I was very fortunate because I did get to see people who looked like me. And then I worked on various shows, and I just I did everything. I started as a PA, and I just worked my way up to where I am now. I've done shows like Two Broke Girls, Poker Face, which is out right now, Dead to Me, I don't know, a bunch of other things. And so I just feel I just went around and told everybody what I wanted to do. right? Anybody who would listen, I would be like, okay, I want to do this, I want to do this. How did you do this? I asked questions because I knew that I wanted to A, be successful, but more importantly, I wanted to make money. I wanted to like have a career. I wanted to not ride the bus. I mean, that's really what it came down to for me. Like, I always remember that.
And the bell's getting ready to go
Okay.
off, so if
you
anybody
have
have
any
any questions,
questions.
Tracy, she's available as
Yeah.
a mentor.
Yes.
Can we see you next Tuesday, please?
No, I'm gonna try to, she's getting ready to go to Atlanta
I'm going to Atlanta and then I'm going to Austin because
Right.
I'm going to promote from the face
for the Emmys, so.
But listen, you can have my email. Feel free to email me. If you want to if you want to come in PA like for a day and see what it's like, you can pay for some. You can check it out. It's it's an experience. You may either love it or you may hate it. It's a lot of hard work. Though. Don't think it's easy because it's not. Okay. Yes.
All right, thank you guys.
There's a lot of stuff out there.
Okay, also, I just want to make an announcement, again, for Mariah, again, since she graduated, this is how we treat queens for our organization. So I'm going to have, but this is how we treat queens. So for Mariah, from the bottom of our heart, Mariah, thank you again for your hard work and dedication. So again, give Mariah a round of applause. Everybody in there at some point is going to need to get their flowers. Okay?